My neighbor's teen son kept trespassing into my backyard pool despite my warnings. One night, I drained the pool and installed a hidden alarm. At 2 a.m., a siren blasted. I rushed outside to find him trapped in the empty pool, crying. His mother stormed over, screaming, "How dare you do this to my son?" I held up my security footage. Her face turned white as the police arrived. "Hello, everyone. I never thought I'd find myself sharing a story like this, but recent events have left me with no choice. I need to get this off my chest and, perhaps, get some advice or insight from others who might have faced similar situations. I live in a suburban neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona. The summers here are brutal, with temperatures often soaring above 110 degrees. Having a backyard pool isn't just a luxury, it's almost a necessity. After a long day at work, there's nothing more refreshing than taking a dip in the cool water. My pool has always been my sanctuary, a place where I can relax and escape the relentless heat. A few months ago, a new family moved into the house next door. It was a single mother, whom we'll call Diane, and her teenage son, Jake. At first, everything seemed fine. We exchanged the usual pleasantries over the fence, a nod here, a wave there. They seemed like a nice, quiet family, and I was glad to have new neighbors. However, it wasn't long before I started noticing some odd things. I'd come home from work and find wet footprints leading from my pool to the fence that separated our yards. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining things. Maybe the footprints were from me or perhaps from a stray cat or dog. But then I started finding other items, a damp towel draped over one of the pool chairs, an empty soda can floating in the water, a pair of goggles left on the pool deck. None of these items belonged to me. I began to suspect that someone was using my pool when I wasn't around. The idea made me uneasy. Not only because it was a violation of my privacy, but also because of the potential liability. If someone were to get hurt in my pool without my knowledge, I could be held responsible. I knew I had to address the situation before it got out of hand. One evening, as I was watering my front lawn, I saw Diane checking her mail. I decided it was a good opportunity to bring up my concerns. "Hey, Diane," I called out, walking over to her driveway. "Got a minute?" "Sure," she replied, smiling. "What's up?" I took a deep breath. I've been noticing some signs that someone might be using my pool when I'm not home. Wet footprints, towels, that sort of thing. I just wanted to check if Jake has been swimming over at my place. She laughed, but there was a nervous edge to it. "Oh, boys will be boys. He probably just wanted to cool off. It's so hot these days." I nodded, trying to keep my tone friendly but firm. "I understand that. But it's a liability issue for me. I can't have anyone in my pool without permission. If something were to happen." She waved her hand dismissively. "Don't worry about it. I'll talk to him." I hoped that would be the end of it. But deep down, I had a nagging feeling that it wasn't. A week later, I decided to come home early from work. I had a headache and thought a swim might help. As I pulled into my driveway, I heard the unmistakable sounds of laughter and splashing coming from my backyard. My heart sank. I walked through my house and out to the backyard, and there they were, Jake and two of his friends, lounging in my pool as if it were a public facility. They had brought snacks and drinks, which were scattered around the pool deck. One of them was even using my inflatable pool float. "Jake!" I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. "What the hell are you doing?" The boys froze, their faces a mix of shock and guilt. Jake recovered first, offering a sheepish grin. "Just taking a dip. It's really hot out today. I could feel my blood boiling." "Get out. Now." They scrambled out of the pool, grabbing their belongings. Without another word, they hopped the fence back into their own yard, leaving behind a mess of wet footprints and snack wrappers. I stood there for a moment, trying to calm myself. This was beyond unacceptable. I had given a warning and it had been blatantly ignored. That evening, I marched over to Diane's house. She answered the door, looking slightly annoyed. "Look, if this is about the pool," she began. "It is," I interrupted, struggling to keep my voice steady. "I found Jake and his friends swimming in my pool today without permission. This has to stop." She rolled her eyes, a gesture that made my fists clench. "They're just kids. Let them have some fun." I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. "Diane, this isn't just about fun. It's about respect and legality. If it happens again, I'll have to involve the authorities." She crossed her arms, her expression defiant. "Fine. Whatever." I walked away, my mind racing. I didn't want to escalate things, but I couldn't let this continue. I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands. The next day, I drained the pool. It was a drastic measure, especially given the heat, but I needed to send a clear message. I also installed a hidden alarm system that would alert me if anyone entered the pool area without my knowledge. It was a motion-sensitive alarm designed to detect any movement in the pool area and send an alert to my phone. For a few days, everything was quiet. I began to hope that maybe, just maybe, the message had been received. But then, in the early hours of a Saturday morning, around 2 a.m., my phone buzzed with an alert. The pool alarm had been triggered. I jumped out of bed, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Grabbing a flashlight, I rushed to the backyard. There, in the empty pool, was Jake. He was trying to climb out but was struggling. Tears streamed down his face, mixing with the dirt and scrapes on his skin. "What the hell, Jake?" I shouted over the blaring alarm, rushing to turn it off. He looked up at me, panic in his eyes. I thought the pool was full. I jumped in and before he could finish, Diane came storming out of her house, her robe billowing behind her. "What's going on?" she screamed, her eyes darting between me and her son. I pointed to Jake. "Your son tried to sneak into my pool again." I drained it and set up an alarm. He jumped into an empty pool. Her face went pale. "Oh my God, Jake." She ran to the edge of the pool, helping him climb out. He had some scrapes and was clearly shaken but seemed okay overall. Then she turned on me, her eyes blazing. "How dare you? You could have killed him." I was incredulous. "How dare I?" "Diane, your son has been trespassing repeatedly. I warned both of you. This is on him." She opened her mouth to retort, but I held up my phone. "I've got security footage of every incident, including this one. Maybe it's time the police got involved." Her face went from anger to realization. She knew she had no ground to stand on. The police arrived shortly after. I showed them the footage, explained the situation, and they had a stern talk with Diane and Jake. The cops didn't arrest anyone that night, but they made it clear this wasn't a small matter. One of them, Officer Ramirez, pulled Diane aside. I couldn't hear everything, but her face said it all, red with embarrassment and anger, her arms tightly crossed, teeth grinding. Jake sat on the curb with a blanket around him, avoiding everyone's eyes. After they left, I thought maybe that was finally it. Maybe that would scare them straight. For a few days, things were quiet. Diane didn't look at me. Jake stayed inside. My security alarm didn't go off. I started to breathe easier. Then about a week later, I woke up to something strange. There were eggs smashed on my front window. Dozens of them. The driveway had toilet paper hanging from the tree like streamers. My fence had graffiti on it. Just big red letters. Snake. I stood there in my robe, staring at the mess, heart pounding. Felt personal. I didn't see who did it, but I knew exactly who it was. I reviewed the security footage. Whoever did it stayed just out of the camera's view, but I caught glimpses, tall, slim figure, hoodie. It looked like Jake. I couldn't prove it, but my gut knew. I called the police again. This time, they filed a report, but without a clear shot of Jake's face. It wasn't enough to press charges. Still, I had the report documented. The next day, I went to talk to Diane. I wasn't going to yell. I just wanted it to stop. She answered the door but didn't open the screen. "You need to keep your son away from my house?" I said calmly. She scoffed. "You think I can control everything he does?" I stared at her. "He jumped into my empty pool in the middle of the night. He could have died. And now someone vandalized my property. If I catch him on camera next time, I will press charges." "You're unbelievable," she hissed. "He's just a kid. You think scaring him with sirens and empty pools makes you a hero." I turned to leave. "Next time, I won't be the one scared." Things got worse. 2 days later, I came home from work and saw a dead bird floating in my pool. Its neck was twisted. It looked like it had been thrown in. I didn't take chances. I drained the pool again. Then I upgraded the cameras. Wide angle, night vision, cloud storage, everything. I wasn't messing around anymore. That night, I heard talking near my fence. Quiet at first, then louder. Laughter. Teen boys. I flicked on the back floodlights. Silence. Then the sound of running feet. I caught 3 silhouettes hopping back into Diane's yard. One of them had Jake's exact limp. The limp he got after landing wrong in the empty pool. I called the police again. This time, I showed them the upgraded footage. One of the officers nodded. "That's enough to confront the family. We'll follow up." They left, but the next day, I found something in my mailbox. It was a single photograph. A picture of my car taken from behind, like someone standing right outside my garage. It was printed, not digital. On the back, someone had written, "Watch your step." That changed everything. Now it wasn't just property damage. It was a threat. I took the photo straight to the police station. They opened an investigation, took fingerprints from the envelope, and asked if I had any known conflicts with neighbors. I gave them the whole story. A few days passed. No eggs, no graffiti, no more dead animals. It was quiet, but it felt wrong. Too quiet. I didn't relax. I installed more lights. Motion detectors. A steel lock on my gate. I started parking my car inside the garage instead of the driveway. I even got a Ring doorbell, just in case. Then came the worst night. It was just after midnight when I heard a loud pop. Then another. I looked outside, my backyard was on fire. Not the whole yard. Just a section near the fence. A plastic chair had been lit up and flames were licking the dry grass. I grabbed the hose, heart slamming in my chest, and sprayed it down. Luckily, it hadn't spread far. But if I'd been asleep or if the wind had blown stronger. When the fire department came, they said it looked like someone had thrown a firework or maybe a lit rag over the fence. Arson. I showed them the camera footage again. This time, we saw a full face. Jake. He was wearing a hoodie, but when he turned to run, the hood slipped. It was a perfect side shot, clear as day. The officer looked at me. We'll be taking this very seriously. The next morning, Diane's house was swarmed by cops. They weren't playing around anymore. I watched from my window as Jake was placed in the back of a police cruiser, his head down. Diane screamed at the officers, pointing in my direction, but no one listened. I wish I could say it ended there, but it didn't. 3 days after Jake got taken in, things were almost peaceful. For once, there were no noises late at night. No trash thrown into my yard. No slashed tires, no messed up mailbox. But then I noticed something weird. I was drinking coffee on my porch that morning when a black SUV I didn't recognize slowed down in front of my house. Tinted windows, Arizona plates, nothing too out of the ordinary. But the way it crawled past and paused, engine humming, gave me chills. I stared at it. It didn't drive off right away. It just lingered, then slowly pulled away. That same SUV passed by again that evening. And the next morning. It happened for 3 days straight. Always around the same times, once in the morning, once at night. Never stopped. Never spoke. Just drove slowly past my home, then left. I told the cops. They said they'd keep an eye out, but without plates or a clear image of the driver, there wasn't much they could do. That's when I got a call. Blocked number. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to. Hello. The voice on the other end was male. Deep, calm. Drop the charges against the kid, he said. You don't want this to get bigger. Then the line went dead. I stood there for a moment, heart thudding. Who the hell was that? Was it one of Diane's relatives? A friend? Maybe someone she hired? I contacted the detective handling Jake's case and told him everything. The SUV, the calls, the voice. They took it seriously. They told me they'd look into it. Maybe someone close to the family had a record. A few days later, I got a knock on the door. It was the detective. We did some digging, he said. Diane's brother, his name's Victor, used to run with a local crew. Nothing recent on his record, but he's known for intimidation. He's in town right now. Of course he was. I asked if they could provide protection. They offered extra patrols in the neighborhood and said if anything escalated to call 911 immediately. So I added another camera, one on the roof, aimed at the street. I also started keeping a baseball bat by the door. Then, one night, I came home to find my front door slightly open. I never leave it like that. I stepped inside, carefully, every light off. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I walked through each room, living room, kitchen, hallway, nothing looked touched. Then I noticed something. My back door was unlocked. And one of the pool chairs? It was turned facing the house. Someone had been watching. Waiting. I called the police again. They found no fingerprints. No forced entry. Nothing stolen. But they confirmed someone had been inside. The alarm system had been cut cleanly, like someone who knew what they were doing. That's when I reached out to a friend of mine, retired Army, now in private security. I'll call him Nate. Nate came by the next day, looked over everything, and said something that stuck with me. This isn't about the kid anymore. Someone's trying to scare you. Probably thinks you'll back down. I told him I wouldn't. So Nate helped me reinforce everything. New locks, reinforced doors, motion floodlights with sirens, even a trail cam hidden in the hedges out front. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw next. A week later, I got home from the grocery store. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something taped to my garage door. It was a photo of me, asleep in my bed, taken from outside the window. That same handwriting on the back, last warning. I don't scare easy, but I couldn't lie, I felt cold all over. Someone had been close enough to watch me sleep. I gave it to the cops. They took it very seriously. Now the case wasn't just vandalism or trespassing, it was stalking. They brought Diane in for questioning. Again, I don't know what she said in there, but she left looking pale. Eyes red, mouth set like stone. The next day, she was gone. Her car, her stuff, her son had gone. Empty driveway, dark windows. Like they picked up and left overnight. I asked the detective. He said he couldn't comment on the investigation, but something clearly went down behind closed doors. You'd think that would be the end. But it wasn't. Because 3 days later, I got another letter. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. Just one file on it. No name. I plugged it in, half shaking. It was a video. Black and white, grainy. It showed someone standing in my backyard at night. The timestamp was from 2 weeks ago. Before Jake got caught. The figure wasn't him. This person was taller, broader. They moved slowly like they knew exactly where the cameras were and how to avoid them. Then they held something up to the lens. A knife. They pointed it toward my back door. The screen went black. Next scene, inside my house. Someone's point of view, moving quietly, room by room. They got as far as my hallway. Then turned the camera toward the bedroom door. My door. Then the screen cut to black. That footage had never been on my system. Which meant someone else had cameras. Someone else had been recording me. Watching me. From the start. And that's when I realized the pool wasn't the beginning. It was just the bait. I didn't sleep much after watching that video. Every creak in the house made me sit up. Every shadow outside the window looked like someone standing there. I stayed up most nights, lights on, bat in hand. I sent the flash drive to the police the next morning. They told me they'd escalate the investigation and loop in federal agents because of how serious it was getting. They also had questions, mainly how someone got inside my home to record that video. I had no answers, but deep down I had a theory. This whole thing wasn't just Jake's teenage rebellion anymore. That video proved someone else was involved. Someone older. Someone smarter. Someone who planned. That someone had to be Diane's brother, Victor. And maybe, just maybe, I made it worse by taking matters into my own hands instead of letting the system handle it from the start. I was still thinking that over when I got a knock at my door. It was Nate, but he didn't look calm like usual. "You need to come with me," he said, eyes scanning the street behind me. Now. I didn't ask questions. I grabbed my keys and we got in his truck. He drove us to the edge of town, a place I'd never been before. Some storage lot out near South Phoenix. Industrial, quiet, no cameras. He stopped the truck, cut the engine, and looked at me. "There's something you need to see," he said. Then he reached into the glove box and pulled out a small envelope. Inside were printed photos. 7 in total. Each one was a different picture of Jake. On a bike, walking near a school, inside a mall, even one where he was talking to Diane near a gas station. They were all recent. Taken from a distance. Spied on. I looked at Nate. "What is this?" He looked tired. "I've been watching them since they disappeared. I don't trust them. But after that flash drive, I needed to know who else was in this." My stomach dropped. "You followed them?" He nodded. "And I found something." That's when he pulled out a phone, burner style, and showed me a video. It was inside a motel room. Diane was arguing with Victor. The sound wasn't great, but the meaning was clear. She was scared. She told him this had gone too far. That she wanted to turn herself in. That Jake never meant for any of this to happen. That things were spiraling. "Victor?" He laughed in her face. "You think he just trespassed?" he said. "No, sis. I told him to. I told him if he could sneak past that guy, he could do anything. It was a test. Your kid's not innocent." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. So it had all been planned. From the beginning. Jake didn't accidentally sneak in. It wasn't a kid being dumb. It was Victor using him to test me. To break in. To get close. For what? I didn't know. But I knew one thing, Victor was dangerous. And he had something bigger in mind. Nate drove me back home after that. But I couldn't sit still. I paced the house, going over every moment in my head. Every choice I made. Had I escalated things too quickly? Could I have prevented this? Maybe. But it didn't matter now. I had to end it. So I set a trap. I told Nate to disappear for a few days, go quiet. I acted like I was scared, like I'd given up. I left my back door unlocked. Just barely. Just enough. Then I waited. 3 nights later, just past midnight, I heard the door creak. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. I was ready. I stayed silent, crouched behind the hallway wall. Phone recording. Flashlight off. The figure stepped forward. Hoodie. Gloves. Victor. He had a crowbar in one hand and a phone in the other. He whispered into it. I'm inside. I jumped out. Drop it. He froze. I had the bat in one hand. Phone camera pointed at him with the other. You're on video, I said. Everything's recorded. You break in again, you go away for good. He grinned. You think that matters? Then the sirens wailed. Nate had called it in. Cops swarmed the house in under a minute. Victor tried to run, didn't make it far. They tackled him on the lawn, cuffed him, took his phone. The video I recorded? It matched the prints, matched the voice, matched everything. Diane and Jake were tracked down the next day. Jake was placed under watch. Diane confessed everything in a panic. She admitted she knew about Victor's plans to use Jake as a pawn to case my home for a possible robbery, even to threaten me when I started pushing back. Turns out Victor had done this before, used his own family to get close to targets. He was being watched by federal investigators, and my case was the final nail. Jake was charged with trespassing and reckless endangerment. He got community service, therapy, and probation. Diane was charged with obstruction and harboring her brother. She'll serve time. Victor? He's going away for a long time. And me? I learned that revenge isn't always about being the loudest or the toughest. It's about being smarter. But I also learned this. I made mistakes too. I let my pride get in the way. I turned my home into a war zone when I could have stepped back and let law enforcement act sooner. I played into Victor's game by thinking it was just a kid problem. By not digging deeper. By trusting that a warning would be enough. I should have known better. But now? Now my home is mine again. Silent. Safe. And the pool? It's filled. Clean. But I haven't stepped in since.